instructions, drop what you're doing, and stop Spider-Man.
Hello everyone, Disaster Wolf Art here, and today I'm going to be making my own Spidersona. See, my family and I actually went to go see Across the Spiderverse recently, and to make a super long story short, I fucking loved it. So in celebration of this film, I actually wanted to go ahead and make my own Spidersona. I also obviously got a Miles Morales cosplay suit, and I'm rewatching all of the Spider-Man films, and potentially the old cartoons, so I guess you could say I'm becoming more obsessed with Spider-Man. I guess, I don't know. Also, a heads up, I'm actually going to be doing a little bit of a mini review of the newest film in the last section of this video. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, like, at all, then go watch the movie and then come back for that last part of the video. I promise the movie is really worth it. But anyways, all that aside, let's get right into it. Alright, so for the design, I had a couple of things that I wanted to keep in mind. So for starters, something that I should point out is that I actually made a Spidersona a couple of years back, but I actually want to rework it in a way that makes the suit, well, suit me better now. Originally, I had a more edgy Assassin's Creed inspired kind of look. I still like the original design, but this time around I wanted to keep the design generally pretty sleek since that's the general look for spider people. As you'll see, I did add a couple of things to the base suit, but not too much. Also, I decided to actually draw myself as my Spidersona instead of using Wolfie. I specifically wanted this to be a different version of myself because I wanted him to visually reflect myself. Plus, I just don't really get to draw myself very often anymore, so I thought it'd be fun. His mask still has those big old expressive eyes, but instead of adding the web design, I actually gave him 6 more eyes on the mask to give it a more unique look. Also, kind of calling back to the fact that this is a character based off of a spider, so. And speaking of the mask, I made it cover his face completely, but I intentionally had his hair sticking out of the top. It's one of those little details from my first design that I'm still just in love with. I also kept webs out of this design completely as a little nod to the fact that he's based off of a wolf spider, go figure, and wolf spiders actually don't spin webs. Purple also became a very big part of this design since it's my current favorite color. I also added in that black-ish kind of color and my red highlights in my hair to help give it a little bit more visual interest. I also felt like the purple was unique enough to get me away from the typical red and blue color palette, but still similar enough to fit in with the other spider people. Something else that I added to the suit was a hood. I already love hoodies and cloaks and stuff like that, so seeing Gwen wear a Spidey suit with a hood on it definitely made my little hood-obsessed brain happy. I also went on ahead and gave my Spidersona a crossbody bag. Since this guy is literally just me, I'd imagine that he'd keep some art supplies in there. I feel like he'd just kind of listen to some music and sketch in a book when he's bored. More interestingly though, one detail that I definitely made canon is that he'd have some small cans of spray paint in his bag too. I say that because he would actually spray paint a spider on the wall or on the ground whenever he captures a villain. Not only would he do this because of my love for graffiti, but he would also do it as a fun little way to kind of fuck with the cops and get a rise out of them. Like, he'd leave that little breadcrumb for them to find, and then they'd be pissed because he keeps getting away. So as an extra little bonus, I decided to give my Spidersona some street clothes for when he's not fighting crime. I don't really have too much to say about the casual clothing, to be honest. They're pretty much just clothes that I actually own, or just inspired by clothes that I actually own. But I did intentionally want to keep the purple in both of the designs. I actually decided to go with some brown pants and some bright orange socks and headphones so I could get a little bit more contrast between the street look and the Spidey look. I usually wear pretty casual outfits in my day-to-day life, so I felt like that was probably the most true to me. Alright, so before we get into the big drawing of this video, I did do a couple of sketches, so let's use this time to talk about some superpowers. So in terms of superpowers, my Spidersona's got pretty much the same usual abilities like Spidey sense, enhanced reflexes, wall crawling, stuff like that. But my version of Spider-Man was specifically bitten by a radioactive wolf spider. So I did some minor research on wolf spiders to get some kind of inspiration for more unique abilities to add on. Like, apparently wolf spiders can actually camouflage to hide when they're hunting, so my Spidersona would actually have a cloaking ability like Miles. I would imagine it's somehow visually different from Miles, just so that it's not like a copy-paste kind of situation, but I just don't know how to imagine that or visually display that, so just imagine it's a little different. Another fact about wolf spiders is that they're actually known to pounce on their prey, so I decided to interpret that aspect as some kind of super jump ability. It would have its limits, but he'd be able to jump way higher than a normal spider person. And as a little bonus ability, I guess, wolf spiders actually have super great eyesight, so my Spidersona doesn't actually need the glasses that he wears. They're completely useless to him, but he wears them just so that nobody gets suspicious or asks any questions. I don't know, I just thought that was a cool little detail. Okay, so if you have not seen the film yet, go watch it and come back to this part unless you don't mind spoilers. I appreciate you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye! So you gone yet? No? Then let's get into it. So let me start by saying that the first film always had a special place in my heart for multiple personal reasons. For once, I actually got to see someone my age going through the motions of growing up and finding themselves in a fun yet incredibly mature way. I also got to see a Spider-Man who I could really relate to, and not just because he's black. I mean, yeah, it helped, but it was more because Miles is an artist who's just trying to find his own way instead of being exactly like someone else. I've always liked Peter, but there were times where I felt like I couldn't relate to him as much. At least until Tom Holland took up the role. But even then, Miles is closer to my heart. I grew up trying to be like everybody else around me, but it never really worked because it wasn't genuine. But the first Spiderverse film really helped me become the person that I am today, and I'm kind of proud of that. I say all that to say that I went in with a lot of emotional investment and expectations, and Sony fucking delivered. All of my expectations and more were met in the animation, the music, the character designs, and especially the plot. The plot was actually not that complicated to me, but I think that worked in the film's favor. The heart of the story being Miles trying to save his dad not only showed just how much Miles loves his dad, but also it shows how he's the type of person who would try to save everyone instead of having to choose who to save and who not to. Some of my favorite characters returned, and even though Miles is still pretty much my favorite, Hovey is a badass. And he's just a really good person. Like, I loved that he played a huge role in the film without even needing to be there the whole time. I mean, he's the one who taught Miles how to break out, and he made Gwen a makeshift dimensional watch because he knew that they'd start a rebellion together. And it all just shows that even as an anarchist, he's a super calculated person, and he's a really just easy close second in my book. But anyways, Hobie fluff aside, I really enjoyed Miguel because he's like such an interesting character. Like, you can tell that his actions are wrong, but it's obvious that he's really only acting out of fear and paranoia, especially because breaking the canon is so unpredictable. I like that his conflict with Miles really makes you stop and think about who's right and who's wrong in this scenario. And when you kind of think about it, they're both right and they're both wrong at the same time. And I'm just so excited to see how everything plays out. And Gwen was also another really great character in this movie. A lot of people that I've seen on the internet lately definitely think that she's a traitor and she should not be forgiven, but I think that even though her actions are wrong, she's trying her best to save everyone. And even though she does lie to Miles a lot in this movie, you can tell that she's never really malicious in her actions, and she eventually decides to form a resistance against millions of other spider people just to help her friend in his time of need. And even just her emotional moments with her father, like when he found out that she was Spider-Woman and still tried to arrest her, and then like when she came back home and they had that conversation, it just, oh god, it just made my heart sing. Like, especially since like she made up with her dad by the end of the film after their fight. And the Spot, oh my god, yo, the Spot was so fucking cool in this movie. I never really cared much for the Spot, but this film makes him so funny and goofy, and I just love that throughout the film, even though he stays like pretty goofy throughout the movie, you can see him actually getting stronger and becoming way more of a threat. And he did all of this just because he wanted Miles to take him seriously as a villain and not to see him as villain of the week. He's so fucking petty and I love him for it. And Miles' face-off with himself at the end was just mwah, chef's kiss. I love Miles' arc throughout the movie, going from fighting with his parents to him literally traveling across dimensions just to save them. And finding out that he wasn't even supposed to become Spider-Man in the first place, which is so compelling. Especially like looking back at the first movie, you can definitely tell that they had this whole thing planned from the start. Because even the spider that bit him was definitely hinted at not being from his dimension. So to see him confronted by a version of himself that was actually supposed to become Spider-Man was just amazing to me. And honestly, Prowler Miles, like, oh my god, I cannot wait to see more of him because he just seems like he's probably going to be an anti-hero and not really a villain, and that's going to be so interesting to look at. That aside, seeing so many spider people at once made my heart sing because of all of the references. I didn't get them all at first, and I still really don't, to be honest, but after watching multiple videos on it, I just grew to appreciate the movie even more for its attention to detail and its callbacks for the fans. Overall, this movie is my favorite of the year so far, and it's a solid 10 out of 10. I'm so excited for part 2. This video was so fun to do, and I really hope that it encourages more people to make their own Spidersonas. And honestly, I just really want to see what you guys can create with this concept. But that's all I got. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it, and let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and slap that little gray bell so that you get all the newest notifications. That's all for today, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!